So you're looking for new ways to get more done. There are a lot of the same old tips and tricks floating around the internet, but I think you'll find that this list has a fresh take on a few of the old goodies. Let's go. The first tip is to communicate more thoroughly and more intentionally. This saves a ton of time and emotional turmoil long term. Spend an extra 5 minutes to communicate well and save yourself a 55-minute argument. Make sure that whoever you're talking to really understands what it is that you're saying and that you ask questions of them to make sure that you understand exactly where they're coming from. Number 2, call ahead when you order food. It saves a few minutes and I'm not going back to waiting in lines. Number 3, audiobooks always and only. Download new and better info into your brain while you drive, walk, exercise, or clean. This is otherwise lost potential time. I read 89 last year. Routine. Accept them as viable and useful. I naturally hate routines, but have come to realize the value in consistency. Repeating your good habits compounds your good efforts and helps them to sink in. And I've noticed recently that doing the same thing over and over gives you the opportunity to optimize. If you drive to the same place every morning, you probably know the best way to get there. Same thing with everything else in life. If you keep doing it, you refine the process and you get better. Goals. These are your North Star for all your activities. Neuroscience has proven over and over that vividly describing your goals increases the likelihood of them actually happening. If you don't have any SMART goals, get on it. Write them down ASAP. If you want to, we can get weird for a second and just imagine what it would feel like to actually accomplish one of your goals. Okay, so think of one of the goals that you have for this year. Got it? Okay, now close your eyes, take a deep breath, and imagine with me. Where would you be when you find out you've accomplished this goal? What would indicate that the goal had been accomplished? If it happened, what would you be thinking? How would you feel emotionally? Who would you share this victory with? How does accomplishing this goal change things for you? All right, you can open your eyes. We're done imagining. It might seem kind of strange to do that, especially if you were here watching the whole time and you didn't do it with us, but really successful people and really high-performing athletes do this all the time. They visualize how their speech is going to go. They visualize how that last play in the game will end up. They visualize what their performance will be, what they need to do to get there, and it helps it to happen. Basically, it just helps you to focus on that finish line and not get too worried about the hurdles that are there along the way. Number 6, review your goals daily, weekly, or monthly based on their scope. We need to see our goals regularly to actually believe that they have a chance of happening. Put them in front of you, on your phone, in your mirror, where you work, wherever. Just make sure that you see them. This way, whenever you have the opportunity to make a decision, you can quickly and easily ask yourself, does this help me accomplish my goal or does this hinder me from accomplishing my goal? Number 7, less screen time, i.e. games, Netflix, YouTube. Okay, maybe not YouTube. Stay here. Less screen time, social media, all that jazz. This is an obvious one. If you spend less time on your phone frittering away time and more time working on your goals, you're going to get them done. Do whatever it takes for you to turn this around. Do whatever works. I track my screen time literally every single day using the screen time app on my phone, and then I plot it on a graph within Google Sheets, and I can see where the trend line is going. If it's going down, or sometimes if it's depressingly on its way up, then I know that I need to make a change. Generally, my goal for daily time spent with screens is about 5.5 hours, which still feels like a big number, but it's down a lot from where it was when I started. Number 8, small wins. Personally, whenever I go for bigger, faster, more forced results, it blows up in my face. I get injured, I have to take time off, I have to go back and redo something that I made a mistake in. It doesn't work for me. Instead, settling into smaller, more consistent goals helps to keep you going without any of that rework, without injury, and without having to take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Plus, those big goals that you have might be 5 or 10 years away. So you need to have some small wins in between now and then to track and know that you're on the right path. Number 9, focus on activities with significant ROI likelihood. All I mean by this is keep doing what works. Odds are that 20% of your activities are driving 80% of your results, so do more of those things. Number 10, flexibility to learn new processes or start over from scratch. If you're setting goals, that implies that you're wanting to change something, and change can be really, really painful. Welcome a new process along the way with open arms. If you continue to do things the old way, you're guaranteeing that you only get the old results. Number 11, copious notes, Remembrall, second brain, whatever you want to call it. Write down anything important in a searchable format. I personally just switched over to Notion at the end of last year and am falling deeper and deeper into nerd love with it. I document ideas, goals, work tasks, YouTube goals, YouTube plans, conversations I've had, conversations I want to have, basically everything significant. This allows you to quickly and accurately recall what you need. The worst pencil is better than the best memory. Get a great pencil. Number 12, phone chargers everywhere. Let's own up to the fact that we need our phones to be as productive as possible. And while we need to spend less time to be as productive as possible on them, a dead phone is worthless. So put chargers everywhere. I have one in my vehicle, at work, obviously a few at home, and I even sometimes have a portable battery bank to carry around with me. Say that 3 times fast. Portable battery bank. Number 13, go on walks. Walking nets you most the benefits of running without all the sweat and the shin splints. Plus, it gives you a way to think and process and plan that's better than most other ways. A 2014 study by Stanford University proved that you're actually more creative when you're walking than when you're sitting. Accept harsh truth and feedback from other people. I'll get a little bit personal right now and just share with you some of the things that I realized last year that I needed to accept. One of those being that I was making some pretty significant mistakes at work. So I work in construction, and we kind of have one chance to set up a project before we go and build it. And if I set that up wrong, I get us off on the wrong foot, that costs us tens of thousands of dollars immediately. This is a huge problem. I also had to accept that most of my YouTube videos, and especially my podcast, just aren't very good. They've gotten a lot better, and I appreciate everybody who's here and who's found me and who's subscribed lately. You guys are awesome, but up until recently, they were pretty bad. It's important for us to accept reality, even and especially if it's not what we want. And that leads into the next one, which is rejecting excuses after we've gotten that feedback. It's really natural for us to want to reject the reality that both we kind of suck at something and that we have the power to change it. Don't accept the excuse that says that you're totally powerless to change your environment. You can simultaneously have respect for yourself and hold your actions to a higher level of accountability. Number 16, pull out the stops and don't hold back. Give 100% of your effort to your work, to the people that are in front of you in that current moment, or to whatever it is that you're doing, and watch how much more you get done and all the extra things you notice. Number 17 is try, then fail, then learn. This is the basic recipe for getting experience. Last year, I tried things that I had been avoiding. I failed and had to realize, why, yes, I do in fact suck at this. Then I had to learn how to be slightly less terrible at that thing and just repeat it over and over. Rinse and repeat. Number 18, go deeper into fewer activities instead of going shallow into a bunch of different ones. Generally, people love to multitask, and I'm included in that group. Instead, choose fewer things and do them completely. You'll move a greater distance if you choose a single destination and focus on getting there instead of taking a bunch of detours along the way. Number 19 is simplifying your physical spaces. For me, that meant cleaning my desk at work, cleaning out my truck, cleaning out a lot of the different spaces in our house, and getting rid of a bunch of different stuff. I largely got rid of those things that I'd had for 2 to 5 years, thought would come in handy, and then had just never touched. Maybe they would still come in handy, but I don't need them. Number 20, spend less time worrying about outcomes and more time with your head down working. This one is still a huge struggle for me, and I feel like I'm still terrible at this. I love data and tracking, so I love to check on it. My inclination has been to pause no matter what. If I've won, if I've done something well, then I'll pause and revel in it, and I'll look at the data to back it up. If I've failed, then I'll pause, look at the data, and wonder why I failed. None of that helps create a good outcome in the future, so I just need to keep moving forward. A great book on this subject is called The Practice by Seth Godin. I recommend checking it out if that sounds interesting to you. Number 21 is unsubscribe from mailing lists like it's my job with a passion. This just ends up saving you so much time because you have less junk to sort through. And it could also potentially save you money because then you don't impulse buy whatever that thing is that's on sale. If it lands in my inbox, it better belong there. And number 22, the last tip is memento mori. Now, Stoicism has had this resurgence here in the last few years. Memento mori is a saying within Stoicism, and all it means is remember that you will die. And the practice isn't morbid, it's just remembering this. You have a limited amount of time to do whatever it is you want to do. And just because you might assume that you have 10 or 30 years left to live doesn't mean you're right. Acknowledging a limited time frame helps us to keep things in perspective. For me, knowing that I have somewhere between 0 and 45 years max left to live means that I need to focus on the things that are most important right now. I don't want to hold grudges or bicker with family or coworkers. I'm going to die soon, and they will die soon. What do I want our relationship to be? I need to go after that right now. For me, remembering this also helps me to spend less time on social media or watching Netflix or wasting time in some way that's not important because the clock is ticking. I personally like to see this in a more visual way, and so I've mapped this out in a couple of different ways. One is just literally starting like a list with this year on it and then forecasting what happens in 10 years, what happens in 20 years, what happens in 30 years. And that's everything from like kids going to college to marriage anniversaries to like big birthdays, like when I'll turn 50 or things like that. And it makes you kind of realize what you have in this window of time between today and that next big event, whatever that is. And ultimately, it just pushes me to think about who I want to be when I get there. When I get to walk my daughter down the aisle, who do I want to be? What do I want our life to have been like between now and then? That's the first time I've ever thought about that, actually. Also, while thinking about Memento Mori, I kind of stole this idea from somebody else online, and I just got like a Google spreadsheet, and I made 52 columns across, one for each week of the year, and then 90 rows tall, representing kind of the average maximum lifespan of a normal human. And then I just checked off all the boxes that I've been alive so far. So what this has kind of challenged me to think about is, this is the time that I've had so far. What have I done with it? Who have I become? What have I accomplished? What have I wished I've accomplished but I've not yet done? And then with this little chunk of time that's left, what do I want to do with this gift of however much time, whether it's 1 row or whether it's 35 rows? What am I going to do with those weeks? That reminds me, I need to check off the last one of 2020. There we go. If I can figure it out, I'll put a link to that down below in the description so that you can get a copy of it for yourself. And if you want to, you can check it off on like your phone, or you can print off a version like I did and have a physical representation of your life. I also got on canva.com and I made this little like Memento Mori graphic kind of a thing that is basically like an hourglass with these skulls going through it, because it's, you know, it's about death. And I just wrote the word soon at the bottom so that I could think about this. And I've got that here on my phone. As much as I love Notion, I also will carry around like a little pocket notebook, and I got it here printed out in the notebook. And I just like to have that as a little reminder. And those are my tips. For me, possibly the most surprising thing when I compiled this list to make this video for you is the fact that all of those things happened all in 1 year. I think that we're capable of a lot more than we might expect out of ourselves. That feels kind of like a lot to me, anyway. So if you're skeptical, or you've not had a lot of success with your goals or with being more kind of efficient with your life in the past, that doesn't mean that the next month or the next year of your life has to be that way. You can change things. You can likely handle more improvement in more areas of your life simultaneously than you're even aware of. Set a new record this year for focused attention on what actually matters the most to you. Hey, thanks for watching. Bye.